What's going on, everybody? Thanks again for coming into another episode of Dr. Homebrew. That might be the weirdest intro I've ever done for this show.
I could do weirder.
I'm sure you can, but we can't swear.
Whoa, people and plants. Welcome to our show.
You don't need to do weirder. No, it's fine. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Dr. Succulent is on the job.
All right, thank you. We are here today talking a little bit of homebrew and some more commercial beer because this is our show for December, one of them. And, I know we covered commercial Christmas beer, holiday beers on the last show, but we were hanging in the group chat and we're like, what do we even talk about? Because we don't have much homebrew to deal with. And we're like, well, let's just go get more commercial Christmas beer because it's all over the place. There's so many. And I thought for a while all this was dying down, like this Christmas beer, holiday beer thing, but it's not. It's just morphed into weirdness. So I want to talk about some of that weirdness. We have some on this show. We're going to do a little bit of homebrew and then drink at least two of the beers that I remember seeing. I've seen these beers. I'm not going to tell you what they are now. I've seen these beers, I think, for 20 years in the stores. Maybe these same bottles. I don't know. We'll find out.
As have I. Which is why I picked them, because I've never had them. I thought, why not why not subject us all to these beers and see how terrible they are?
Yeah, and I'm glad I did that, because that's exactly what I thought too. I'm like, oh, okay, we're just going to figure this out. Finally, it's like, okay, finally, I'll pay this bill or whatever. Because it's
finally going to rip the Band-Aid off of these beers, see how it feels.
Now that's just 8 days until Christmas. We're left with what's left on the shelves that didn't sell at Bevmo.
It is a little bit like the Christmas tree lot right now at Bevmo, where there's like a lot of stuff. Like, I'm not sure I saw any celebration. I did see, I swear we've done St. Bernardus Christmas Ale, which is why I didn't get that. I was about that close to doing it.
I
thought, I'm going to go for some things that I'm sure we haven't done. Some kind of holiday, some kind of not.
For the next show. The next show is going to be all about kind of like our more Christmas beers, maybe some choices to bring, stuff I've never seen before, like I said. So that'll be fun. But this show, like I said, we're gonna start off with homebrew talk, which is weird lately for this show. And we have Steve, who's president of the Bay Area Mashers, on the line with us. Steve, welcome to Dr. Homebrew.
Thank you.
Now, you did have beer. You are not included in the slanderous talk that I like to give to our listeners who don't send us beer anymore. You do have beer, and you gave it to Brian Shaw, and Brian Shaw refuses to send it out.
It is that good.
Yeah, it's that good, right? Right.
It's pretty good. And, we were a little inside baseball. We were kind of texting probably what today is Wednesday. No, today's Tuesday. And we were texting like Thursday or Friday, like, how are we going to get these beers around? And it's just, I'm working 2 jobs now. I'm so super busy. Like, I don't know how I can get them around. And then it was raining like hell.
Yeah, dude.
And then JP couldn't go. It was just like, well, maybe we'll have Brian drink these, and then we'll just go a short distance to our local Bevmo and get some commercial beers to fill in.
That's a great plan.
It's a plan, and we all kind of came up with it together, and I'm proud to be a part of it.
Right, exactly. So Char's going to have one of the beers from Steve while Steve tells us tales about homebrewing in the Bay Area, or something's happening. Something's coming up, right? You guys have a big burlesque show you guys are doing for the club, or what's that about?
Well, that's news to me if there's a burlesque show, but I'm all for it. I'm not going to give you a preview of it today.
I'm disappointed. Yeah, so we're going to talk to Steve, and it'll be a good time. So there's a little bit of homebrew talk, which is, outside of the norm, I guess, for this show, finally. But yeah, anyway, we're going to have a good time, everyone. So thanks for sticking around. I don't have any of Steve's beer. So while I was at Bevmo, I got this can it's a Helles. And I just ate a little bit of a gingerbread cookie, so I'm going to wait and pass judgment later. But this is from Bear Bottle.
I saw that. I saw that in your cart.
Yeah, and you know what? To be honest with you, there's 2 reasons I got it. One, it's a Helles, and I have a standing thing where I'm never going to leave a Helles on the shelf. I want to try them all because I'm curious about them. Right? I love.
You got to catch them all.
And December is the best month to drink Helles, of course.
I think so. Right. But they also published the recipe on the back of the can.
Yeah.
Yeah, they
I
do
like that a lot.
Bear Bottle does that for a lot of their their beers that I've interacted with. They'll have a homebrew recipe of it, and I think that's very courteous of them.
It is. It's super cool, dude. I love it. There's no. Yeah, I think it's great, and they scale it down for 5 gallons already. So you don't
that's
have to
really
do the
cool.
math. And I remember like when Rogue was putting just like the FG and OG or whatever on their bottles, I was like, wow, that's really neat. And the degree Play-Doh, and so they were giving you as much information as like they think that you wanted. But yeah, Bear Bottle's like, here, just do what we're doing.
Yeah.
Try it. I think that's fantastic. So shouts out to them and we having that beer. But anyway, enough about me. Steve, welcome to the show once again. So Brian was telling me that you guys have a competition coming up.
So Bay Area Masters hosts the World Cup of Beer Homebrew competition. Coming up in 2025 is our 30th year of the competition. So,
oh wow,
yeah, going all the way back to whatever year it was, 30 years from next year.
Yeah, math years, man. You know, I won a ribbon in that competition one time.
Okay, you should try again.
What?
You should try to do it again. We've got very beautiful handmade ribbons this year. We decided to reel it all in house, and they look. I regret that I don't have one of our samples with me because they do look outstanding.
Really handmade? Are you you were serious, Clark?
My mother-in-law made them.
No way.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Like knitted them or something?
Almost. They look like the ribbons that we've handed out historically, but they're with the highest quality materials we could find, and they look as good or better than any ribbons I've ever been awarded at homebrew competitions.
That's awesome.
So she is an active member of our homebrew club too, as is my father-in-law.
That's cool, man.
Yeah,
that's great.
He and I actually brewed a beer together to serve at my wedding last year.
Oh, cool. What style?
Nice.
What style was it?
Oh, it was an American Pale Ale, just easy, crowd pleasing. It was 100% maiden voyage malt from Admiral Malting here in Alameda, and then hopped with. I've got the recipe written down somewhere, but it was just very very common crowd pleasing hops. There was
easy drinking.
Mosaic and Centennial. I think were kind of featured.
Yeah, I think if you're a home brewer and you're going to be brewing for like a wedding like that or crowd pleaser, don't go weird.
Yeah.
What kind of malt is that? I mean, it's I know it's a bespoke Admiral Malting's malt, but what malt family is that in?
So their maiden voyage malt to the best analogy is Maris Otter.
Oh, cool.
It's maybe a little less biscuity than like a real classic Maris Otter, but it is a good stand-in for a high color, like a mid to high color British pale malt. I use Admiral Maltings is like just down the road from me basically, and
cool.
So I use them in almost all my recipes.
Nice,
like very high percentages.
Very cool.
That's great, and you can just buy it from them. You don't have to go to a homebrew shop or anything.
Yeah, so Oak Barrel Winecraft does stock Admiral Malt by the pound and by the sack up in Berkeley, and then but you can buy malt directly from them by the pound and also by the sack.
That's cool.
From the Rake Pub, which is attached to Admiral Maltings.
Okay, see that's smart, man. A lot of times we get homebrew equipment people or whatever, like, well, we don't want to like skirt around homebrew shops, but I don't think it matters with like small or artisanal stuff like floor malting, the traditional kind of stuff that they're trying to do over there. I think that's encouraged, and to be honest with you, the more people, the easier you can get that stuff into people's hands, the better.
And then I also have the benefit, I am on texting basis with their production manager, so I will know a couple days ahead of time when certain malts are coming out of the kiln, and I can plan my brew days to have malt that was kilned same day.
Wow, that is super cool.
Look at you.
Is it still warm out of the kiln?
It's warm out of the loving arms of Anthony at Admiral,
which is almost just as good, really. Yeah. Honestly, maybe better. Who knows? Well, so what's going on this year at the World Cup of Beer? How many entries do you guys get typically?
We have regularly exceeded 300. We'd like to expand that quite a bit. I'd love to put a plea out to all of your listeners to please enter not only World Cup of Beer, but just home brewing competitions in general. It's a really wonderful corner of this hobby. But for World Cup of Beer in particular, I have a vested interest in this particular competition.
Yeah.
So I should going to plug a couple basic details of it, and that's that registration will open on January 6th, 2025.
Oh, so we got time to plan. All right.
Yeah, so there's plenty of time to turn around a good lager in a couple months. Entries will be due March 12th at either More Beer in Concord or Oak Barrel Winecraft in Berkeley.
Okay.
Nice.
So plenty of time to turn around a nice lager, beers that are some ales that are good for aging, and then as you get closer to March, those fresher beers will be fun to brew and send our way. And then
Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I want to put a shout out for the World Cup of Beer. I mean, I haven't judged it that much recently, but I've entered that. I've won categories in that. I've won ribbons in that. I've got a mug, engraved mug for something. It's a great competition. It's a lot of fun. It's a great one to enter, and it's a lot of fun to judge. So, local judges, if you haven't, or local, anywhere from Sacramento to Monterey to whatever, to Santa Rosa. It's a lot of fun to come and judge it. I'm sure you guys need the help for judging. I plan to sign up this year. The only thing, unless it's a weekend I have my daughter, is that the last year she's a senior in high school. That won't be an issue in 2026. But, especially because she's going off to school in the fall. If I could possibly do it, I'm going to do it.
Yeah. Great.
We love having as much judging help as we can. We often find ourselves wanting for judges. So any qualified beer judges listening in on this, feel free to check out. It's register.worldcupofbeer. Can't remember if it's .com or .org. I think it's .com. One of those. Try one, then do the other.
And like I said, even out of state people anywhere in California, it's a high standard of judging. It's a good group of people that judge, and this is a good competition. If you're going to send your beer somewhere during the year, this is one of the competitions you ought to be sending your beer to.
One thing that I'm
known in the area in the spring is always just that's one of the big ones to enter here, and they do a great job. It's also a joy to judge it, and I've gotten to do the Best of Show there a couple of times. It's really fun.
Yeah, Brian and I met in the Best of Show judging room at World Cup of Beer 2024 earlier this year.
Wow, nice. Very cool.
And I should note, I'm doing some work to try to put the world back in World Cup of Beer. I have some friends in a homebrew club called Scottish Craft Brewers.
Utah?
Yeah.
Okay.
From good old Scotland, Utah. No, they are based out of Edinburgh, Scotland.
Nice.
On my honeymoon last year, I hand delivered some entries to the Scottish National Homebrew Competition and ended up winning a medal. And so to kind of repeat that, some members of Bay Area Mashers, we are pooling together for shipping to send 16 entries to the Scottish National Homebrew Competition this year. And if the boxes are still in good shape, the plan is that they will send some entries back to us for World Cup of Beer.
Oh, that's awesome. I hope that works out, man. Keep us posted on that. I think that's
absolutely
adorable. I love that.
You should challenge them to get a medal in IPAs or something. Like if you get a medal at Scottish beers over there, they can.
I am entering a Scottish export beer.
Nice.
And last year I medaled with an ordinary bitter with an honorable mention for a dark mild.
I feel like there needs to be how cities will bet on their teams that are in the Super Bowl. Needs to be something like that, where it's like, if I can medal with a Scottish beer, you can medal with a West Coast IPA. I don't know, like, you know what I mean? We bet on that, and the loser goes streaking in through the quad or something like that. I don't know. I think it'd be fun. That'd be a good time.
Mm-hmm. It's just like a Thursday night in Scotland, I think, to win.
So I'm interested in what kind of it's been 20 years probably since I've even been to an award ceremony for a homebrew competition. But what sort of categories are we looking at this time around, or at least recently, for what's the biggest competition, right? Is it like still IPA? That's probably going to be a king forever. Are we seeing some of these weird kind of smaller categories recently start coming up?
I can tell you exactly, the entry count for each table at World Cup of Beer, or like any competition that publishes that information. But we tend to find that it's pretty balanced. There's certainly some that had, a lot more entries than others. Like standard American beer, which is for our competition, contained American light lager, American lager, and cream ale, and possibly American wheat beer. There were only 4 entries this past year. So wow, that was an unpopular category at our competition. So if you make good, very low color, gently flavored American beers, you might stand a good chance at performing quite well at our competition. But I'm just kind of scrolling through the entry counts for each table, and they tend to hover between like 10 and 14. Pale American ales, which I think it was American Pale Ale and Blonde Ales, maybe one other, 16 entries. So it's a pretty good representation all across the board.
I like that. That's good. I hate to see it just be concentrated, because everyone goes, oh, West Coast, it's got to be West Coast IPA or hazy IPAs or whatever, and then maybe you'll have a couple stouts, and that's kind of it. But I like that there's some lagers in there, and people are stretching out and doing different stuff.
Yeah, we love lagers. A Czech Dark Lager was the best of show winner at World Cup of Beer 2024, and and then the brewer of that, as part of the competition, they were able to do a collaboration batch with East Brother Beer Company for that recipe, and East Brother has agreed to offer the same thing to the 2025 Best of Show winner. So, wow! If you put in a beer and it's quite good, better than all the rest, then you could get an invite up to Richmond to see your beer on draft and in cans wherever it is East Brother distributes.
Yeah, nice. That's all. Which is even out here in East County, man. We get East Brother right now. So, Cooper, you gotta enter your weird throwaway sour bash that you do.
Yeah.
But then you can't replicate it, right? So
no. Bad idea.
Yeah, bad idea. Well, Sean, why don't we crack open one of Steve's beers, huh? And we can talk a little bit about that. Steve, what beer did you send out?
I sent him. So I've been deliberately keeping it kind of a mystery.
Let me take a guess. Can you mind if I take a guess before you tell me what it is?
We're at the sommelier.
I'll tell you. I entered it into the recently concluded California homebrew competition that was hosted by our very good friends over in Doze, and I entered it into 5 different categories. Wow. So I would love for you, Brian, to tell me exactly which 5 categories and what it scored in each.
Well, I'm not going to tell you 5, but I'm not going to give you a score. But
that's the number.
My guess was 13B British Brown Ale.
Okay.
Because I got a little bit, and I'll tell you one of the things I really liked about this beer. I hate brown malt. I think brown malt is terrible. I think it tastes like tire rubber. I think however we get it or use it in the U.S., it never turns out like in the U.K. This beer has a little bit of brown malt character that I actually liked. That maybe it's the part of that, maybe it's that Admiral Maltings, locally kilned, craft malted barley. But I liked, for the only times in my life I've enjoyed what I perceive to be like a brown malt. I get a tiny bit of sourness, not from bacteria or anything bad with this beer. It's something that I associate with certain types of dark malt, which I think is pleasant and really good. Now that I've guessed, you should tell us all about it. Which 5 you put it in, and I can see how wrong I was, because we probably didn't put it in 13B at all.
Well, before we do that, what's your score? Give it a.
I did put it in. Oh,
throw it out.
Sorry.
Score.
Kind of partially spoiled that. I did put it in 13B.
Okay, good.
See, there you go, Char.
I would give this probably like a 38 in 13B. I get a tiny bit of oxidation, which is maybe what keeps me from going higher. But like I said, I really think the handling of the brown malt, or maybe the type of brown malt, maybe there's no brown malt, maybe it's just that Maris Otter-ish custom malting by Admiral Maltings. It really gives you the character of that British brown ale without being without being as unpleasant as I tend to find a lot of those to be.
So you said you ventured a guess at British Brown Ale and a score of 38.
Yes.
British Brown Ale was one of the entries that I did, and the consensus score of the judges was 38.
Whoa! Wow, are you kidding me?
Oh.
My God, I'm good at something in life. Holy cow!
That was the entry that had the highest consensus score of the 5. I'd love to see what you think.
Okay.
Go for a second.
All right, let's think about, it's going to be a British category. I doubt you're going to enter it in bitter, although you might have entered it in strong bitter. Because a little bit of, it's not a high alcohol beer. It's maybe a little high alcohol by British standards. It's not going to be a dark mild, although maybe I'm wrong about that.
Oh, I'm going to guess. I love that Char pinged that shit, dude.
Yeah.
Boom, man.
I don't
my heart did a little flutter when you said 38. I was like, he didn't get that. No, okay, no,
I've been judging for 20 years. I'm not always that good. But
I'll reveal a little more. We'll reveal a little more.
I'm going to guess strong bitter. I'm going to guess strong bitter was another one you entered in.
No, Char's dying. It was his last breath. He's guessing.
You got the 1 out of 8 bottles that was poison. I'm sorry.
I've pinged it so strong. There's no reason to continue to live. I might as well just die right now.
Does it have any porter-like tendencies, or is it just
strong bitter like an ES? Okay, this I can see this easily. After they renamed the categories, it's now been however many years. I'm still getting used to them. I can see you entering this as an ESB, and maybe getting around a 35-ish for an ESB, 11C.
I love this. All right, is he right, Steve?
You're not far from another category.
Okay. So that would be maybe a best bitter.
You went a little farther.
Okay. Okay. Let me go back here to the.
I'm not going to make you scour it. So the second highest performing entry was with the judges who evaluated this as 17A British Strong Ale.
Okay. Yeah. I needed to scroll down to there. Yeah. British Strong Ale. I can see maybe this is a 35 as a British Strong Ale.
It was 37.
Okay.
Pretty good, man.
I'm only gonna try to get the third one out of it, only because the third highest scoring entry was the one that I actually won a medal for. So this is you could, if you were morally and ethically bankrupt, look up the results of the California Homebrew competition.
Oh, what fun is that? We're having a good time right now. I just want to find out. I'm just going to play this guessing game some more. Yeah, British Strong Ale, I see that doing well.
Yeah.
It's not going to be. I'll walk you through my thought process here. It's not bitter enough. Well, actually, strong bitter doesn't have to be bitter. I'm still thinking 11C strong bitter was one of your categories.
It wasn't one that I entered. That doesn't necessarily mean that it would have been inappropriate for me to have entered it in that, but I did not enter it as a strong bitter.
He ran out of money. He couldn't spend any more on this entry.
I think I ran out of bottles.
And you're talking about being morally bankrupt. I wonder if you entered this as American Brown Ale has got a lot more bitterness than this and a lot more hop character. American Amber Ale also does. Did you perhaps enter this as an Irish Red Ale?
I did not. However, when I talked with a few people at the awards presentation ceremony about what I had done, this was before any of the results had been revealed, they suggested, they said, oh, so I was describing the recipe to them, and they said, oh, so was one of them Irish Red Ale? And I regret having not entered it as an Irish Red Ale.
I could see this doing fairly well as an Irish Red Ale, too.
Sure.
Not as well as it would as a British Brown, but I can see it doing fairly well as an Irish Red.
I'm looking forward to next year, when we get to try this beer. I'm looking forward to it because this kind of is ticking a lot of boxes for me in beers that I like to drink.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you think those 7 remaining bottles are going to last in his beer closet there?
Yes.
I've been keeping them in my garage. Actually, it was a good thing I put them in my garage, and we decided to do this after I'd already gone to work, so I couldn't pull them in my house or put them in the fridge or anything.
Yeah.
So they're at cellar temperature, exactly like a British beer ought to be. right? It's probably
There you go, man.
probably 55 degrees, probably 55 degrees in my garage. So these bottles are 55 degrees. They're perfect for a British beer, exactly where you want them to be.
I love it.
And that would be appropriate for 4 of the 5 styles that I entered it as.
So one was probably intended to be cooler. Okay, I wonder if you entered this as a no, you wouldn't do it as a Märzen because it's got too much brown malt. Is it alt beer maybe?
It was Scottish export.
I was guessing maybe Scottish because Scottish typically it's usually got a little more maltier, almost syrupy, but can be more of a wee heavy.
I agree that it could be a little sweeter for style. But yeah,
Scottish export
scored the highest as British brown ale, followed by British strong ale at 37 points. The entry, the judges who got it as a Scottish export scored at 34, and it went on to win 3rd place in the Scottish and Irish beer category.
Nice.
Man,
I totally get that because you've got that kind of Scottish export can cover a little territory, and it's not something that Americans are always super familiar with, which can work in your favor. As comments for this style for Scottish export, Americanized versions are often greater in strength, similar to American treatment of Irish red ale that we were just talking about. Do not perceive the light roasty dryness as smoke. Yeah, I can see people, maybe if they're not familiar with brown malt, perceiving that as maybe a lightly smoked or some sort of roasty dryness in there.
It does have a spiciness to it, I think. And that could be due to 8% flaked rye.
Yeah.
8% flaked rye in the recipe.
That's
and then
where
also
that's a little bit of sourness is coming from.
Also a small amount of chocolate rye.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nicely done. This is a really good beer, man. I really like this. I mean, you can see I've drank almost this entire bottle just while we're preparing for the show and chatting with you, and I've got this much left in my glass. It's really good.
I'm glad. I'll send you a prize of some sort if you can name if you can name that yeast. Don't overthink it.
Is it the White Lab Scottish Ale?
What is it?
USO5.
Wow. Yeah, you'll send me a prize, which is some powdered USO5. Just put it in an envelope with no return address. Yeah. Just some powdery stuff sealed up.
Not anthrax.
Yeah.
Too bad,
well, it's not white, so it's if it were white, it would be anthrax or blow. So either way, I mean,
either way, it's a party, right?
Yeah, it was.
Either way, you're having a good time for a few hours.
I got all set up to brew this beer, and I had a package of a Scottish ale yeast that was a little long in the tooth, and I had forgotten to make a starter. And I started on the brew day, and I just thought this is already not going to quite be right for Scottish export, which is the beer that I had in mind when I was brewing this. So I was happy to have gotten a medal on that one in particular.
Nice.
And so I was just like, I can either dump this wort or I can add USO5, and I added USO5.
That's the smart call.
Yeah, that's the way to go, man. You always got to have some dry yeast on hand.
Yeah,
it was a pretty good beer.
I don't know how many times I haven't brewed for a while. I swear to God, I'm going to start in 2025 again.
I hear that
I haven't brewed for a while, but whenever I brewed, it's especially if I'm trying to brew for competition or make something. No matter how much I made a list or tried to prepare, there's always something, and I'd have to run. Thankfully, I was like a 20-minute drive to More Beer in Los Altos. I could go and get it and come back.
Rest in peace.
I know. That was a good store, and I love Phil. Yeah, now I'm even closer to the one in Concord.
Yeah.
But regardless, very very well done, and that's a good lesson for homebrewers that are listening. Is don't give up and dump it just because some one ingredient that you really wanted isn't at hand. Just use what you got.
Work for it.
And also, if
dump
the beer
it afterwards if it sucks, but don't just dump it in advance.
Or if the beer comes out like mine did, not quite fitting into any one particular style, if you have the means to, then I encourage you to enter it into multiple styles. Like mine was so this beer. I'm looking at the recipe on my Brewfather app. It's a little too strong, a little too high alcohol and high OG and FG to be a Scottish export. So it's right at 6% alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
A little too light to be a wee heavy, which is the last one that I entered it as.
I bet you probably got about a 28 as a wee heavy.
It was 27 as wee heavy.
27, okay.
There he is.
And then I also did the only beer style that it actually fit all within the guidelines of was Kentucky Common. And so I entered it as Kentucky Common, and it scored a 32, which I think is a good score. Not outstanding, but it's good.
Yeah. I think it's technically very good, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or is that still good?
See, Steve, this is a classic example of how, we've talked about this on the show before. I'm sure people have heard this in other podcasts and things they've read. Yeah. When you're entering a competition, you enter based on how it tastes, not on every little technical detail of OG and FG and ingredients. Sometimes that stuff doesn't get reflected. Yeah. No, they don't.
On your intention, which is even worse, right? Like I wanted to make this, and therefore I have to enter it in this, and that's just not how it goes.
Yes.
So I am sending this. This is one of my entries to the Scottish National Homebrew Competition.
Oh wow!
And I'm looking for. I still haven't decided if I'm going to go with Scottish Export because it's already won in that one. And I think it'd be very funny to win if I were to win with a Scottish beer in the Scottish competition.
Oh, yeah.
But I think I'm going to go with British Brown Ale because it is more instantly identifiable as that style.
Yeah, that was my first guess as to what it was, based on my perception of like a brown malt. Mm-hmm. But you probably didn't use any brown malt in here, it sounds like.
No, so this was.
That's why I liked it.
78% was Gallagher's Best Malt from Admiral Maltings. That's kind of like a high color American pale malt.
You got to stay out of the splash zone for that one.
Yeah.
You may get wet.
Hell yeah.
Then there was a 7% Munich malt. Mm-hmm. The rye malt that I mentioned earlier. Then a little bit of a medium crystal malt, and then some of Admiral Malting has a malt called Kilnsmith, which is like a low to medium color crystal. It's about 70 degrees lava bond. Although I think it might be a little darker than that, but that's what it says on their website. And then a touch of chocolate rye.
Wow. Yeah, when I start brewing again, I'm going to get some Admiral Malting's malt and just
all right, this is a commercial now for Admiral. Let's leave it alone.
Well, I'm really not. I have no interest in them or whatever. I
know, honey.
I've heard of them. I've never even been to the pub, and I've wanted to go for years. It's just more like a fun thing to play with.
Yeah. I owe Admiral Maltings a perhaps not a debt, but I am in cahoots with them for something that I was excited to get a chance to talk about on this podcast because I haven't revealed this to even most of my own club members.
All right, go ahead and do it. I was about to kick you off, but you got it revealed. Go for it.
I'm terribly boring. I'm sorry. And that is that. So in addition to next year being the 30th anniversary of World Cup of Beer, it is also the 35th anniversary of the Bay Area Mashers Homebrew Club.
Oh, wow. Nice.
When I took the reins as president, I thought we ought to make a big deal out of that. And so I've been working with Dave McLean, who's the co-founder of Admiral Maltings, and we are going to be doing a Pro-Am collaboration series with several Admiral Maltings customers throughout the Bay Area. So we've got East Brother is on board, and then a couple others who I asked if I could if they'd be comfortable with me specifically plugging them on this podcast, and they didn't respond, mostly because it was like 4 hours ago that I emailed them. But
it's a busy time of year too.
Yeah. East Brother is going to do a Pro-Am collab with BAM, and then there are I feel very confident saying there's going to be about a half dozen of us doing a Pro-Am series.
That's awesome.
With Admiral celebrating the 35th anniversary of Bay Area Mashers, most of them being debuted at It's the Malt Festival in June of 2025.
That a new beer festival?
It was new this year, and it'll be it'll be done a second annual. Round.
Is that at Admiral?
At the Rake at Admiral Maltings. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, cool. Sounds awesome, man.
That sounds really cool.
And I'm not being like paid to plug Admiral Maltings here. I talk about Admiral Maltings roughly as much in my everyday life outside.
I'm sure that's possible.
I picked my first apartment in Alameda partially because I could walk to Admiral Maltings.
Oh my God, that's so cool.
Yeah.
Hey, you know what you like? And, for our listeners who are not around the Bay Area, there's a lot of craft maltsters around the country that don't get a lot of publicity and not necessarily on the podcasts or whatever.
They don't have a Steve of their own.
Exactly. So, if you're brewing in Maine or Nebraska or whatever, poke around, see what kind of local maltsters you have, support them, buy their malt, make some beers, experiment. That's the point of homebrewing, is to experiment and try new things. Go support your local craft maltster.
Yes,
absolutely.
Do that.
And make homebrew with them, and send them to World Cup of Beer
and to Dr. Homebrew.
Keep us posted on all this stuff. It sounds like you guys have a big year coming up.
Yeah, we've got a lot of fun stuff going on. That's just kind of the tip of the iceberg of things that we've got in store for the next year. I'm working down my flight of homebrew that I've got here. I've got my Scottish, British, Kentucky export common, my best bitter, my American, my British golden ale. I'm sorry, and then my American stout.
Very nice.
Sounds good, man. I love it.
That's a good flight right there. I would wish I was there drinking all those with you.
I've got more.
At a different glass.
and clearly when I try to deliver beer to the Dr. Homebrew podcast, it only goes to Brian Shar.
Only for now.
I'll do better next time.
We couldn't get it together in time. But
that means you have to have me on again.
Yeah, so we can come.
We would love to have you on again.
If you can come back in January, then we can fix. Then we can get the beers around finally and talk a little bit about it, because I feel like we've covered like 40% of the beer, but I want to try it.
Yeah, and I'll be making more in the meantime, and traveling out to Concord Martinez area, because I'm dropping off beers for Del Cielo's. Oh, sorry, it's not Del Cielo. It's Sidegate Brewing. I'll, just because I've said that, I'll bring beer to Del Cielo, but it's Sidegate Brewing is hosting their British beer bonanza, so they're doing a homebrew competition for a shot at a Pro-Am collab with them.
See, that's what we need to be doing, boys. We were texting the other day. I was like, we should be really plugging a lot of competitions, especially in the area. As for a podcast that relies and thrives exclusively on homebrew.
Yes.
This is the
do a better job of that.
Yeah.
Here locally, they're gearing up for them. We got the Alameda County Fair coming up that's organized by my club, the Mad Zymerges. That's after World Cup, so enter them first, of course. But that'll be coming down the pipeline.
Enter World Cup, and then enter the ones that win in the Alameda County Fair.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you know what? With every entry, you get free admission to the fair, guys. Yeah. So just so you know.
True. Yeah, that's the Babbo contest, right?
Steve, we're going to let you go. We're going to take a break because we're kind of running against the time. But for everybody who wants to enter in the World Cup of Beer homebrew competition, go to register.worldcupofbeer.com, and registration will open on January 6th. This would be a good January 6th. This is a positive one for 2025.
We got to take that back.
Judging will commence. Judging and steward registration will open there as well, which is great. And then you were saying it's like March, I believe, is when entries are due.
March 12th is the deadline to submit entries. They'll be judged for the next couple of weekends with the final awards party that is basically a mini homebrew festival with free food and homebrew. That is going to be March 30th.
Love it.
That any entrant, any volunteer, steward, judge, or Bay Area Masters member is welcome to.
Where's the judging?
It'll be done at Faction Brewing. So another reason for me to rep and support Faction. In addition to them being our host site for our meetings, they're also are very, very generous and very kind host site for the World Cup of Beer homebrew competition this year.
That is true.
They really are.
As abrasive as Roger is, he's a sweetheart when it comes to like being altruistic, I guess is the word. I don't know.
Yeah, I am desperate to stay on his good side, because I know the second I veer from that, and it's all over. No, Roger, if you're listening, you're wonderful, and I delight.
Roger, if you're listening, you're a piece of shit. Everyone hates you.
No, I love Roger because he's exactly who he is, and there's just no filter. He's just out there. And yeah, he's abrasive, but so what? Who gives a fuck?
I love that dude. No, I love
him too. He's a great guy.
He is. But that's what I mean, right? It's like there's some people who are sort of prickly. With Roger, then you get to know him, and it's just like, oh, you get Roger. If you get Roger, like you're in, man. He's a good dude. Yeah. I like that guy a lot.
All
right, we're going to let you go, Steve. We're going to take a break, everybody. We're going to come back. We have 2 beers to try, these sort of like Christmas classics. Then we're going to be done, and then we're going to be taking a little bit of a break and then coming back with another show tonight. So if you're listening live, stay tuned for that. But if you're not, hold on a second. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back. All right, thanks for sticking around, everybody. We are back, and before the break, I was plugging these 2 beers that, like I said, I've literally seen probably for 20 years. Shar, when you texted the group, because basically we were like, all right, whoever gets to Bevmo first gets to determine what we're drinking tonight, and that's just kind of how you got to fly by the seat of your knickers. You know what I mean?
On occasion, that's just how you got to go.
You got to do it. So Shar pulls these, and I'm like, these look really familiar. And I had this like pang of nostalgia, I guess, when I went there and grabbed these beers off the shelf, because this is like one of my earliest beer drinking memories. And I don't know if it's real or not, right? But they are, let me pull the cover off. This is Santa's Butt Winter Porter. And if you guys have been drinking for any length of time, this will look very familiar to you. It's like a hand drawn, it almost looks like very German or European, and there's Santa and he has a butt and he's showing you his butt. And then we also have Bad Elf, which is a 4.5% by alcohol Winter's Ale. So it's winters. It belongs to the winter. It's not a winter ale. It literally belongs to the weather.
Yes.
Yeah. And so we're going to be drinking these. These are both by
Ridgway Brewing.
Ridgway Brewing. There you go. In
Oxfordshire.
There you go. So from the UK, I have always...
Imported by Lime Ventures in Concord, California, whatever that is.
No shit, really?
No, seriously, it's right there on the label.
In Concord?
Yeah, right here in Concord.
I'm going to look that up while we're looking at this. But yeah, I've wanted to do this forever, so I'm really actually tentatively excited, Shar.
Mm-hmm. We did the British one, or I'm sorry, we did the Belgian Christmas beers a little while back, and this may seem like rehash, but now we're in the UK. So
hey, I knew you had to mention it's a rehash.
Did we do a St. Bernardus in the past? A St. Bernardus Christmas? I swear we did.
Yes, I think. Yeah.
Okay, we might have, but
that's why I didn't get it.
Talk about it, but it doesn't matter. We don't have that in front of us now. We have these 2 beers. Cooper's gotten 45 minutes without really saying a handful of words. So, Cooper, why don't you start with probably the Bad Elf? I would guess.
Okay, let's dig into the Bad Elf. So it's a winter's ale. Now, when I see the name Bad Elf, I would think, okay, just looking at the name, this is going to be a stronger beer,
right?
Or a more intense beer, or maybe even a dark beer.
But look at that! It is
it's kind of a
straw hay
golden, like light golden color. Yeah, it's not yellow, but it's light gold, I guess. And okay.
It's strong by British standards, perhaps at 4.5%.
There's quite a fair amount of hop in the nose here too. I wouldn't expect that either, but it's got a kind of a basic bready, biscuity character in the nose from the malt. A little bit of kind of a herbal hop, a little bit of.
So while we're digesting this, Lime Ventures imports Dre Fontaine, the Achel Trappist beer, 8 Wired, which I think is from Australia.
They're like a block away from more beer on Detroit Avenue.
Down the road. Yeah, they're down the road. Barreled Souls, a lot of Beechwood. They distribute Beechwood.
Wow.
That is fucking wild to me, dude. They have 6 pages of brands on here. You know, who knows if it's all Cantillon. Okay, see now we got to go pay a visit. Cellar Maker, of course. Crux, Common Space. Anyway, on and on. DeGard. These are some heavy hitters from a place I'm surprised to know is down the road.
I know, it's right by the Flipper Room and by More Beer, just literally right there.
What's the flipper room?
So my stepson and his girlfriend have gotten super into pinball, and I like to go with them too. So does my wife. We all like to go. The flipper room is this place in Concord by Morebeer that has like 50 different pinball machines, and you just go and play pinball. They have tournaments and stuff. He has joined the league, and now he engages in league play at the flipper room. I think he's there right now, actually, or he was earlier today.
All right, sorry, I digress. Go ahead.
But it's worth going. It's worth going to. It's a little plug for local Concord business.
It has quite a bit of kind of American hop nose to it too. There's like citrusy qualities in here. I would call this like more like an English IPA than like a winter ale. You know, it's
the
hoppy.
winter ale is bothering me, or
It's
winter's ale.
The marketing seems not to match the beer, and it's in this brown bottle, so you can't really see what's, a dark brown bottle. You can't see what color it's going to be necessarily, but this is not what I expected. I actually kind of like it because I like hoppy beers.
So here's what it says on their website. It says, "'Tis a heavy hand what adds the hops to this festive golden ale. Truth be told, there's near to 3 pounds of fresh hops goes in every barrel of this treasured brew. Pull up a sturdy chair. Let's fill up your best flagon with the season's finest natural ale, and I'll tell you a dark tale of elf and woe. Here's to your elf." So and they have a dry hop version too, which is an English strong ale at 6%.
That might be fun to try.
And then they have a very bad elf, which is a strong amber ale at 7.5%. And then they have
I saw that one too. Yeah,
seriously bad elf, which is an English triple at 9%. And then they have criminally bad elf, which is a barley wine. And then on and on and on.
A British Golden Ale is a 12A with 20 to 45 IBUs, and according to the style comparisons, is more similar to an American Pale Ale than anything else, although often lower in alcohol and usually features British ingredients. And I can, with the color and the hop flavor and the hop, the bitterness, I can agree that this is maybe a British Golden Ale with not a restrained hand on hops.
Than British IPA.
They have
the bottle oddly says amber ale. Instead of golden, it said amber on this bottle.
It's funny because on the Ridgeway Brewing, it literally says pale ale.
Yeah, weird.
So I don't think they
need to make up their minds. Yeah. They're changing the marketing as it goes, and probably changing the beer for modern tastes. I don't know, man. Yeah, it's been around for years. Did it jog any memories when you tasted it?
I'd never had it.
Okay.
I've never had it before until right now. Okay. Do you guys get a little, the kind of like obvious oxidation a little bit? How prevalent is that?
Kind of a mineral character, like a kind of slightly Burtonized kind of watered character with the bitterness is playing off in kind of a rough way. I'm not getting any paper cardboard really.
I get a little bit.
It's not.
But it's
the
very
freshest tasting, to me. But it's
Usually, I'm really sensitive to the to oxidation, and I'm not getting oxidation in this either.
Yeah, it's not bad. I tell you, it's pretty good. Like you know what it tastes like? It tastes like an imported beer that's been on the shelf at a Bevmo. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of that where you just sort of have to. You pull it off the shelf and you kind of know what you're in for already. Like you have to take 20% off of your anticipation and be like, this isn't going to be exactly that great because of these 3 things. But for what it is, it's pretty good. There's a very sharp bitterness to it, which is surprising. Like you said, Cooper, the marketing does not match what's in the bottle at all.
And I had very low expectations because I would never seek out this beer. It's always there in the Christmas time.
I would never do it either. Yes, right. Yeah. It's seasonal. So if you're looking for a decent low alcohol, example of whatever you guys called it versus whatever they call it on the website, a pale ale, British pale
golden ale,
4.5%. I wouldn't not recommend it. I mean, I think the bitterness is a little too aggressive for me personally. But I wonder because it's almost like a tannin. astringent.
But it can be up to 45 IBUs. And frankly, if I were doing a BJCP class and I were trying to find a commercial example of this beer, which is not going to be that easy to find in 2024, I would happily serve this as an example of that style.
You know what? This would be a good beer to put on some sort of exam or a tasting round through, like, hey, what's wrong with this kind of test? Like, because I don't know, there's like a thing to it where maybe it's the hops. It does have kind of like this old school, like mint, some of those like, I want to say like a straight, like wormwood, or
Northern Brewer type of thing.
Yeah. That's what I'm thinking of.
And there is a little hint of astringency. I think you're onto something, JP. You said astringency. I get a hint of that.
A little bit, yeah, but I think it's this, like Cooper saying, woody, minty kind of thing. So I think it's those hops, and I'm too fucking old now. Apparently, I can't read the hops on this thing, and I think it just says hops.
No, it says hops. That's just the ingredients.
Yeah,
it lists them in many different languages. Hops, humla.
That's what I thought it was. I'm like, maybe I'm out of the game, I guess, when it comes to the fucking hops. I have no idea what's going on.
No, that's European. That's European labeling, where they're going to be doing it to their major customers in different languages.
Yeah,
that's not a hop type.
So I'm trying to find either like a recipe or. It's funny. So I'm on Shelton Brothers website, which apparently they used to import this, and Bad Elf used to be 6%.
I'm seeing that same thing. Yeah.
It used to be 6%, and they even have a picture of the label that says 6%, and now it's 4.5%, which I love. Don't get me wrong. But yeah, I love that, dude.
That's when Shelton Brothers imported it and not Lime Adventures.
Right. They have a sell sheet, but I don't want to download anything.
Yeah, I know.
It's quite dry. There's very little sweetness in this beer. The body is light. It's actually quite drinkable. So, I guess if you, like me, are the type of person who just sees this beer in your peripheral vision as you're looking for your Sierra Nevada Celebration Ale or whatever, maybe turn around and grab one just for the hell of it.
Do it. Do it. Please,
it's not that expensive. It's actually pretty. It's pretty decent. It's not the best thing you've ever drank. It's PDs, as the kids might say.
No, they won't. No one will.
No, because if I ever say something like that, the kids might say, they have stopped saying it 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. Basically, once anybody with your advanced age starts saying it, you know what blow your kid's mind is say skibbity toilet. That'll freak them out, because that's the thing right now. I'm looking up things, and on Homebrew Talk there's a post where it's like trying to find a recipe for these beers and no replies. And that was 2012.
Yeah.
It's like nobody cares. But yeah, please definitely try this beer. It's worth a shot. It's worth it. If you
I'm
are
surprised that we're saying this.
Figure shit out. I know, me too. If you're trying to figure shit out and it's like taste weird stuff, go for the older looking labels. Go for that stuff that like isn't going to be kind of skewed by the modern, thing, even though this has dropped a 1.5% or whatever over the last God knows how many years.
It's dropped 20. It's dropped one quarter in alcohol in the last couple of years.
Dude, it's
20
wild,
gravity points.
man. This thing is weird.
I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. It's very if you're looking to take a break, right, from the classic American beers, even like Sierra Nevada, right? Or whatever, which everyone needs a break from everything. It's different enough where like it'll change your whole perspective on shit.
Yeah, agreed.
If you're looking for something that screams festive and holiday, this is not it.
No.
Other than the label, that's as far as it goes, man.
I like it.
It's jolly on the outside.
Yeah, it's
very jolly on the outside. It's very unexpected.
And summery on the inside.
Dude. Yeah. Damn. Look, they got Brian Shaw on the cover.
Yeah. Ow.
Looks like an old.
Observation accepted.
Old man. Like, and he's like gesturing at you to come here. It's like,
yeah, he's like, try this beer.
It's like you're going to get Dumboed and turn into a donkey or something after you drink that from this guy.
You mean Pinocchioed?
Pinocchio. Oh, yeah, that's right. Pinocchio.
Duh.
Yeah, what was I thinking?
I don't know, man. I like it. Let's take our last break, and we'll do the Santa's butt, and then we'll get out of here, huh?
Yep.
All right. Hang on, everyone. It's Dr. Homebrew. We'll be right back.
There was the oxidation.
My other glass is literally. Okay, we'll just come back.
There was the oxidation I hit. I wasn't going to interrupt the outro for that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. All right, here we go. Ready? All right. All right, thanks for hanging on, everyone. This is our last beer we're going to rip through. This is also from Ridgeway, and like I was saying, it's Santa's Butt, which is very classic, kind of, 90s style marketing, right? Where it's like, let's take a butts are funny, which they are. But this is a winter porter. Now, it's 6%.
It's not a winter's porter?
It's not a winter's porter. It's a winter porter. All right. I definitely am expecting a lot from this beer. And
let's hope for brown color at least.
Yeah, right. It's very porter-like, kind of reddish amber at the sides. It's not super dark, but it's dark enough, man.
I like big butts.
The thing I like so far about both of these beers is they're not spiced. I got enough of that with the Belgian
Is
crap.
that what you were expecting?
Yeah, I thought, I didn't read the labels, but I had no idea what they were going to be. I just saw that.
You know what? There's something about the way that the labels are designed. I agree with you.
100%.
There is an expectation somehow of like being spiced just because it's
all the green and red on the labels.
Yeah. You know what? Maybe that's it, dude. Maybe that's it.
Weird.
I wonder what percentage of sales that Ridgeway makes every year that's their Christmas beers. They have this huge line of them. And I bet this is probably like a third to a half of their yearly income is their Christmas marketed Christmas beers. If I had to guess.
Yeah, you think so?
Yeah.
All right. Well, what do you guys think about this? Char, what do you think?
Them.
I like this. Actually, I like this a lot. This is the second one I'm unexpectedly really happy about. This is, they don't give it a name other than, they talk about they kind of obtusely refer to porter, winter porter. It's a, what's the percentage on this? 6%.
6, yeah.
And that's on the high end of an English porter. So I was initially thinking, well, it's an English porter. I bet this is probably going to be like this, like a strong British strong ale.
This motherfucker and his fucking shitty internet. Well, anyway, on their website, I got to their website. They list it as a porter, which is good. And they say this special holiday porter is made for winter, rich and warming, the way they like it at the North Pole. It was inspired by this famous line from a well-loved children's storybook. And Santa sat on his great butt, enjoying a hearty brew. They say, in case you find that amusing, the brewer hastens to point out that butt refers to a certain sized barrel customarily used for beer. Still snickering.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So there you go. So it's Santa's butt as a barrel and not his actual booty hole,
Hey.
So that's it.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Char, before you pieced out?
Yeah, my internet is just terrible tonight. I would still, even though this is a little bit higher alcohol than 13C English Porter, which is a 4 to 5.4% ABV, I'd still think of this more as a porter than as a British strong ale. Just because of the roasted malts, the chocolate. I think there's some chocolate malt in here. It's very much, it's 6%, which to us as Americans is not strong. That's a normal, that's a pale ale right there. There's nothing strong there.
Yeah.
But I feel like, it's got the chocolate and the little bit of the caramel and that kind of dark malt complexity that a British strong isn't going to have. And I frankly, I like this quite a bit.
Okay.
It's probably on the lower end of IBU. IBU could be 18 to 35. I'd say this is probably closer to the low 20s than 35, maybe mid 20s.
So Ridgeway is it's a decently brewery. They may sell more of the Christmas beers than other stuff, I would guess, but they do have 16D. Their foreign extra stout is a classic commercial example. Ridgeway foreign export stout. And if you go back to I was just doing a little exploration going back to my prior version of the guidelines, 2008. They have Bad Elf listed as a classic commercial example of English IPA.
Wow,
interesting,
dude.
Okay.
I love that.
So
it's a good point that maybe their sales. I mean, we don't hear about them too much in the U.S., but we hear about them every Christmas, which is why I think I made that statement earlier.
If it was a little stronger back in that day when these guidelines were written, that would probably make a little more sense. They've since changed it, and it's no longer a classic commercial example of English IPA.
Yeah,
but
So.
More of a British golden ale today.
You guys, they know their Santa's butt from a hole in the ground.
So I'm back on the Shelton Brothers website, and they have a little bit more information than the Ridgeway site, which is, that's standard, I guess. This is a souped up version of the classic entire butt porter. Apparently, that Ridgeway also makes the entire butt. So this is specifically for Santa. And they say a very large barrel was a butt, in fact, holding 108 imperial gallons. Back in the day, it was quite a normal thing for a brewery to put its beer up in a large butt for storage.
and on the label, Santa's sitting on a big barrel. You can see his, if you look past his big red pants, there's wooden staves underneath it. See?
It's hard to see though because
it's covered up by the label.
Apparently, the labels are done by some guy in Massachusetts called Gary Lippincott.
Huh.
Kind of fun. Neat.
Well,
probably you can't put like Sir Mix-a-Lot with I like big butts just up on the thing right now.
No,
we don't do soundboards on this show.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, God, dude, it's. What am I trying to say? For 6%, I expect a little bit more body. I think maybe that's what I'm used to in our porters, American style porters, I think.
Well, I think ours would be a little drier. This one, it's got a fair amount of sweetness to it.
I don't know. Maybe. I don't know. Let me try.
But ours would have a little more edgy, like, a bitter roastiness or not, or just dark chocolatiness in it, as opposed to this is just kind of a smoothed out brown and light and nothing poking out really sharply at all.
No, and there's not a lot there for 6%. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like for body wise, for malt wise. Stop.
Agreed. And there's no reason this couldn't be a cat management during the show. There's no reason this couldn't be a more traditional strength English porter, dialed back a percent or so, and it would still have all the flavor.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm sort of stuck on it being 6% and it tastes light for a porter, for a winter porter. But I think maybe this might be the difference. Having never been, this might be the difference between English beers and American beers. Like we think of maybe winter beers as like winter warmers, like strong, a lot of flavor or whatever. But maybe they just mean that's just like higher alcohol.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I respect the fact that it's 6% and it's still really smooth, and you can't tell it's 6%. No. You could drink a lot of this and it would be dangerous.
You're right. It drinks like a 4.5% beer to me.
Yes, or less.
It drinks like a mild.
Yeah,
and that's dangerous. But
the entire butt, the Salopian Brewery entire butt is 4.6%. Bottle conditioned product of the UK. That'd be a fun one to try. I've never seen that.
Yeah, these are, I think, the only two Ridgeway beers I've ever seen. I wish I knew the hops. I wish I knew more, but nobody has any information online about these. So if you guys
maybe
know,
next Christmas we need to get the whole line of Ridgeway Christmas beers, all the way from Bad Elf up to like Criminally Bad Elf, and just go for it and see what happens.
You know what? We should make a note. Remind me in like July. Let's reach out to these people and let's see if we can just do that. Just do a whole show like we did with Schlenkerla, yeah, for sure, man.
That's a good idea. And if they don't want to do it, then you can go to Total Wine. I went to Bevmo because that was closer to you guys. But Total Wine, I saw like 3 weeks ago, had like 8 of these Ridgeway beers all together. And we could do something like that next year. Just try them all.
That'd be sweet. That'd be fun. Why not?
Got to catch them all like the Pokemon.
Well, you know what? I think this was cool, man. Thanks, Char, for dragging us back into the 90s. I appreciate you.
I'm happy to do it. Anytime.
I asked, I tried to get some clues. So whenever I run out of ideas of how to figure something out, I'd ask AI. So I just asked ChatGPT what hops and malts are in Santa's Butt beer by Ridgeway Brewing.
Okay.
Then it says Santa's Butt Winter Porter by Ridgeway Brewing is a 6% ABV English porter crafted for the winter season. While the brewery doesn't publicly disclose the specific hops and malts used in this beer, tasting notes and reviews provide some insights into its flavor profile. The beer is noted for its rich, syrupy malt character with flavors of milk, chocolate, coffee, smoke, roastiness, anise, and dark fruits like plum and fig. These characteristics suggest the use of specialty malts such as chocolate malt, roasted barley, and possibly caramel or crystal malts, which contribute to the beer's depth and complexity. In terms of hops, Santa's Butt exhibits a light bitterness with some herbal spice notes. This profile is typical of traditional English hop varieties, which are known for their earthy and herbal characteristics. So, yeah, that's sorry. It kind of got it.
Yeah. For once, AI kind of got it. Yeah. AI doesn't have a tongue. It can't taste. There's no nose. It can't smell. Also, I have no nose and I can't smell.
If we ever quit on you, JP, you just have to train our voices in and just get Chat GPT to
I can do
read
that
in our voices. I know you can.
But, I'm not going to. Chat GPT usage can draw as much water as the state of Rhode Island does in 1.5 days. AI is not good for the environment, Brian. Why don't you ask ChatGPT how good it is for the environment? See what it says.
It's also not very good at things or stuff.
No, it's not very good. But if you want to be good, email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com to get on this show. Because if you are tired of hearing us talk about commercial craft beer, tough shit. If you don't want to send us beers, it's your problem, not mine, not ours. You know what I'm trying to say? And the guys could probably say it in a nicer way, but I don't really want them to. We are a show that runs on Homebrew, and if we don't have Homebrew, we're going to go to the fucking store and make Justin buy us beer. So that's either way we're winning, baby. You know what I mean?
That's right. We always everything's coming up, Brian and Jason.
That's right. So email Brian at thebrewingnetwork.com. We do take mead, we take wine, we take cider, we take anything, whatever you want to send. We will provide feedback, live judging feedback, and then we're also going to be, I think, in the near future, letting you guys know about homebrew competitions that are coming up, maybe in your area, but at least definitely around the nation, important ones and stuff like that. So I think that could be cool. Let's make 2025 the year for entering competitions. You know what I mean? And if you win competitions based on any feedback that we give you, let us know too. We'll talk about it on the show. I mean, that's definitely fun, and we won't make you, mail us more beer to taste, even though you should. So
we're going to make competitions cool again.
That's right. So, and thanks to Steve for coming on from World Cup of Beer.
Sure.
And again, go to register.worldcupofbeer.com. Registration starts January 6th of next year, and you don't have to send anything until March or whenever the deadline is. It'll say on the website.
Enter your beers, register to judge. Maybe you'll judge with me and Coop and Jason. Who knows?
Not me. I'll tell you that right now.
Maybe you'll judge with one or more of the Bryans.
Yes, there we go. That's the ticket. No one cares about me. I'll just fart everywhere. All right, everybody. Thanks a lot for tuning in. I appreciate it. If you are listening live, stay tuned. Give us a couple minutes to kind of refresh some glasses, get the other beers, and then we're going to be diving into more of these holiday beers that we have. And, if not, there's a ton of other stuff to listen to on the network, a bunch of different shows. Go to thebrewingnetwork.com, and you can find them all there. So until then, we'll see you guys later.